Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Situation Corner. My name is Roger Stoyawe, and we, on every Tuesday evening, 5 p.m. to be specific, you will find this conversation on the YouTube channel of Faraja Television. We always come here to talk about a lot of issues, most of those about youth affairs. We talk about anything youth affairs, whether that is in governance, entrepreneurship, and many of these spaces want to understand what is the youth perspective on many of the issues as they happen, about also trying to find some sort of homegrown solutions about some of these things as they happen. So today is one of those. My name is Regis Tugiawe again, and with me is the Speaker of the National Youth Parliament, Mr. Okot Wala, and he's going to introduce himself, of course, tell us a little bit about himself. Besides the National Youth Parliament, what else do you do? And we will begin right from that.
All right. Okot. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here at home on Faraja TV. My name is Okot Ola. I'm the sixth speaker, and again the speaker of the sixth National Youth Parliament, elected last year on August 18th at August House, where we had our first sitting. Besides National Youth Parliament, of course, to be at National Youth Parliament, you need to come from somewhere. Yeah. I joined in on the regionals in Gulu, where I represented my home area, which is Lamour. Lamour is the last district up in the north. Normally we say that the last village in Uganda is Lamour. So that's where I'm from. Besides this work we do in politics and activism, I'm a lawyer. And my specialization is a bit interesting. It's whistleblowing.
Your specialization is whistleblowing?
Whistleblowing, yeah.
Is that an area in law?
Yes, whistleblowing. So I'm a whistleblowing specialist, and I work with FaceUp, which is an international company, both in Europe and Africa, as one of their whistleblowers and whistleblowing specialists on the continent. So that is a little bit about my politics, but also my career.
All right. Thank you so much for being sparing the time to come to this conversation. So to begin with, I wanted you a little bit, in a few minutes, to talk to us about the National Youth Parliament. What exactly is that about? There could be some young men and women out there who are seeing you, probably those who have either never heard of the National Youth Parliament, or have heard but do not have the whole idea of what it works. What is it? Just in a nutshell, what does it do? How do you work? Is it one of the sittings of the National Parliament? How does it work exactly?
Yeah, so the National Youth Parliament is an incredible platform for young people. As you can hear the words national, it's a national, it's an organization that brings together, or a platform that brings together youth from all over the country. So how are youth selected to be in the National Youth Parliament? Of course, before even talking about it, we need to recognize that this is a child of Faraja, together with the Parliament of Uganda and other supporting partners like the Youth Forum, the youth group of parliamentarians, but also the ministries. So coming together, the Parliament, there's basically a movement all over the country. Some of our colleagues here take their time to move and hear voices from all over the country, select. So there's first regional youth parliament that then brings about the National Youth Parliament. The regional youth parliament is to take the parliament or to listen to the voices from a grassroots level. Yes. And a select group from those are brought up at the national level. Largely, the participants are already youth leaders under youth council structures, institutional leaders, but also people who have shown competence in civil work. So coming together from the regions all over the country, Kisoro, Isingiro, Ntoroko, it was a beautiful parliament because people were from all over the place, and we sit together in the August House. Of course, the first session is to elect a speaker, and that I did contest in that, together with a few other individuals who I respect, and we continue to work together. And I emerged victorious. So that is the first session. The second is, of course, the plenary sessions that we run in the August House, which is a really big honor. And of course, every other youth parliament that goes on, we are trying to improve the amount of times we keep engaging, even beyond that youth parliament. So as per now, we are having monthly parliaments, but online, and then other types of sessions. So that is a little bit about the National Youth Parliament.
All right. So in the conversations that happen in Parliament, for example, one of those, like the one you chaired when you were elected, congratulations by the way.
Thank you.
How do those voices shape policies and contribute to like all-inclusive governance? Because I assume that's the reason why the National Youth Parliament is there to begin with, is so that there is a lens to the youth perspective on a lot of national issues. The things that are talked about are not just about the youth, they are national in nature. And you're trying to bring the perspective of the young people. How does that then contribute to those voices? How do they shape those policies and make that inclusion happen?
Yeah, so as a speaker, I'm merely a moderator. Many of the youth came with unique issues from all over the country. And I remember explaining to somebody, because somebody came and told me, was complaining that, Mr. Speaker, I think people are just airing emotions. Then some girl from Kampala, I said, but those are voices that need to be heard. So the first level of influence for me, I believe, is among the youth themselves. That every voice matters and different types of voices matter, and that is what we try to get in the Parliament. Somebody who speaks from Yumbe, somebody who speaks from Kampala. There's no, you might feel like you're a little bit of, you have expert terms, but the real expertise is actually being with the people and solving their problems. So that is one thing I really liked about the Parliament, that everyone is the same, no matter how they speak, as long as they speak to the issues that affect them. So that is the first level. Now the second is to try and gather all of that and put it in an organized format, which we did after the Parliament. So if you were in the Parliament, you know there was the Minister of Youth, these other ministries. Right now we are finalizing also for the Ministry of Environment, in reconciliation with the East African Youth Parliament and all this. So it is our role to run courtesy calls with all the relevant ministers, especially because they're political supervisors, and make sure that they have the voices of the youth heard. That is at National Youth Parliament level. But also we are continuing with discussions throughout every month now, and we hope that more and more people, leaders, can also be invited, and they can take back our decisions to be able to create space. Of course, the other thing is that getting a space to curate issues, to bring issues into one voice. These youth already are leaders within the Youth Council, and these are some of the, and then Uganda Students Association, there was Uganda Muslim Association. So all these are already leaders, and they have capacity to impact where they are from, or as at their level. And of course, many are going to take up leadership in the upcoming elections. I'm sure about that.
I've had a few express interest already.
Yes.
That's a good platform to begin, and I must commend, of course, Faraja and all of the partners, including yourselves, for the leadership and all of these things. But for example, many of these things happen, and a lot of times, sometimes, it sort of, I don't want to say stagnates at some point. The positions of the youth, yes, usually they have very good points by the way, and very valuable points at that. But after that, there's sort of a delay between what the position of the youth is and how does it get implemented, or how does it influence a particular policy as a position of the young people. In that gap, you as a leadership, for example, now, how do you look at that? How are you trying to maneuver that kind of space and to make sure that when the young people identify a problem and think this is a solution that is going to be a bit more inclusive, we need to run with it and see that it influences some positions?
Yeah, there's no shortcut to power, and power is normally what gets things done as fast as possible. There's no shortcut. And I think as youth, we need to take the opportunities, for example, at Faraja, to express ourselves. Now that I'm in position, for example, of speaker, I'm able to discuss directly with the National Youth Chairman, UNSA, all of this, but still not enough. So what I've been encouraging all the young people is step on the platform of the National Youth Parliament, but go for the real positions. Go for Parliament, the upcoming elections, win or lose. At least make sure you try to participate politically. There are positions within the institutions, there are positions within the districts, the councils, and all of these other places. So the reason why our voice as a generation is not heard is because we know that there's a bit of clogging. There are so many generations up waiting to take up the spaces, and so it's up to us really to try and fight our way into some spaces where we can implement. And if in 10 years from now we have about 50 or 60 MPs who have ever been part of the National Youth Parliament, I think then we'll not be asking ourselves how do we get our things implemented, because we'll be electing who is the speaker, who is this, who is on this committee, and we'll have everything. So I think let's step on this as a powerful stepping stone, and then but not lose sight of the actual. I think other colleagues would prefer to advise the path of activism, but for me I prefer the path of politics. So I encourage people to
one fits into the other.
I encourage people. And there's a fellowship I'm in called Sigma Squared. It's a global fellowship that I joined while at university. And the motto is, imagine all the world leaders knew each other at 21. How would the world be? So similarly, that we sit in the National Youth Parliament is no joke. 10 years from now, we'll see the impacts, we'll see the fruits. Yes. Let's just keep trying to take up those spaces.
And now speaking of the taking up the spaces and moving forward, how do you see, because all of these people, for example, that National Youth Parliament might have had like 200 young people, let's say. But a lot of them have this common sentiment that first of all, politics is very monetized. Two, it's quite hectic a bit. And we are now, for example, in a season that we're moving to 2026 general elections, where people are expected to run for these positions. How do you encourage these young people to sort of actively participate in these elective spaces, more of them? Because out of the 200, you might say that those who are more willing right now, maybe even less than 10. How do we encourage the other 100 and something to be able to take up this kind of spaces?
There are many ways to take up spaces. First of all, the most monetized position in Ugandan politics is Parliament.
Yes.
But there's also, for example, youth leagues. It would be very wrong for a youth from wherever they are not to participate, because the youth leagues of all parties, it's just like the way National Youth Parliament tried to organize, and I believe it will grow into that. The youth leagues of all parties start from the village, county, sub-county, district, and then national. There's no way, by the way, there's no excuse for anybody who attended the National Youth Parliament, who is in these circles, not to at least fit in any of those spaces, if money is really a problem. Now, speaking of politics being hectic, I really don't know what to tell such people, because Uganda is an extremely young country. You remember during the Youth Parliament, Honorable Nyamtoro came and said, actually the youth are not the majority. The majority are children. So if you're in your 20s right now, in 2031, your youth will be obsolete. There's no new chance to participate as a youth in any space in the country. Actually, there's a huge chunk of young people who will have come up. So, the advantage of youth is energy. So we know, for example, that monetization plays a factor, but also groundwork. So where you lack in finances, you do rigorous groundwork. And for example, 100 million for somebody who has done groundwork is the same as $1 billion for somebody who has not done groundwork. So it's very important for youth to start early, use their advantage, And I've never seen anybody who is in their 20s who stood for a big position and is not called honorable, whether they won or lost. You know, so I think there's no excuse, in my opinion, not to take up any position in 2026. I think between 26 and 31, it would be a shame for somebody to come and say, hey, we are not being heard, yet you missed even the youth leagues of the parties and all this. Yeah.
Okay, so in all of this, and I want to, because again, there's those who attended this parliament, for example, those who get that privilege, but there are also majority other young people who are not that much interested in, for example, these civic issues that are very important. Politics sort of sets the pace for everything else, including the economy and whatnot. So I am looking at the encouragement holistically, that a young person who's out there somewhere is not just about social media, for example, but they are looking at what are the issues that are impacting their communities. And that now moves me to one of my other questions. Our generation is sort of tech savvy. We've grown up in a technology generation, generally. How do you think we can leverage this one to make sure that youths are now again edging closer in on many of these civic spaces, on many of these decision-making spaces, to use their voice in a way they understand, because at least that they have proved that they understand the social media.
Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, Kwame Nkrumah, the great Pan-African, always said, "Seek first the political kingdom, and the rest will fall in line." I think I really thank the National Youth spaces like the National Youth Parliament, because the truth is the generation is largely, it's not oppressed. It's the word that captures it best is demoralized. It's demoralized to the extent that they have never felt the power to make a change. So if somebody has never felt that ability to make a change, the ability to stand up, it creates this mindset of demoralized generation. That's how I see our generation. So they would rather indulge in private enterprise and all these other activities. Not that you can't do both, but I think our attitude towards politics is one of a demoralized generation. Yes. So I really appreciate platforms like National Youth Parliament when they give us morale. When you sit in the August House, it's a symbolic, very symbolic moment. You know, you feel really good. You feel like you have this, and I think that increases the morale of the youth. Hopefully, we shall have more sittings in future. Now, as National Youth Parliament, we are trying to use social media. Of course, X spaces are popular. We had a very nice space last month, which I moderated, and people came and they were all over the place trying to say this, trying to say that. And it's very interesting because last year we didn't do the spaces, and then when we start, it's a very engaging space that you don't even see time going. People have so much to say. Now that is the power of morale. And I think the National Youth Parliament is one of those sources of morale. And we are going to try to use social media to also galvanize more and more and more. Because even people who are not interested in politics came to me and say, yeah, I want to attend, I want to watch. Maybe it's easier to listen in from home or something like that. Yeah, so I think in general, we should all be looking to increase the morale of our generation through platforms, through social media, etc.
And do you think there's a way to get, especially, you mentioned actually about the clogging of the other generation somewhere up there, spaces you're trying to occupy. Do you find a way that we can, even using technology as young people, as a thing at all we have sort of mastered, do you think there's a way that can also help us to get there?
Yeah, I mean, they say the world, what took the world 100 years of development between 1900 and 2000 has already been surpassed by the first 2 decades. So the things moved much faster with technology.
Connectivity.
And of course, you need legitimate ambitions, legitimate visions. You need to take time to understand the country, understand the people, the plights, and from there, social media becomes a multiplier. But we also need to be careful, because if we have a generation that doesn't understand, the plights of the people and the science of managing people, and they're not also excited, then social media becomes a multiplier in the negative, and we see increasing early warning signs already of potential civil strife and all of this. That's why I really think we need to always be on social media, trying to create space, because once people learn to debate ideas, then violence, strife, propaganda, what we call chemical. We used to call chemical at Makerere. Those become second or third options, and that's really important. So let's arm ourselves with knowledge, the knowledge of how to deal with people, and then try to use social media to move as fast as we can. Every generation, as long as you're an adult, is entitled to take in charge of whatever position.
That's true. All right. So as we move to conclude, do you see in the future, especially for the National Youth Parliament, I want for you to conclude on that very note, that how do we make it a little more, I don't know, in the National Youth Parliament, do we have like some members of Parliament, the overall, who come now to listen to these positions, so it's not sort of a reported speech when we bring our ideas and put it to them, but to say this is what the youth talk about, this is what they agree, this is their position, and this is how we want you to incorporate it, for example, in legislations that are coming, if we are moving to inform a particular policy. How, as in conclusion, do you think we need to find a synergy between these two to make sure that this work becomes a bit less hectic for you, especially for you in leadership?
Yeah, thank you very much. So during the last parliament, we had the youth MPs well represented, the National Youth Council, the Minister of Youth. The Speaker was away, either on duty or, I think it was the time she had gone to see the Pope, something like that. Yeah, but normally she attends. So I think the work is in terms of attendance, it's good. We can do better. For example, we can before the next parliament move around and get as many members of parliament, maybe serve them invitations. And now that you've given me the idea, serve them invitations, make sure they're there. We'll also try as much as possible to keep improving the parliament itself. The quality of parliament is not English. It's people from all over the country able to speak
different
to their issues. And as a speaker, your job is to moderate and have deference to different types of expression, and to compile that and take it out there. So we'll continue to support. I know for sure that we will hand over a better National Youth Parliament with activities in the middle, with the Youth Parliament, and we'll also try to support the next leadership of the platform. I know it's a very useful platform. Yes.
All right. So in a few minutes, you could conclude and invite youths. I get a thing of when you move around, besides just the spaces, because most of the times the thing is, if you are in that spaces, there are chances most of your friends are those people. But if you move out of that shell, you realize that there are actually more youths who are so disconnected from the social issues and their civic responsibilities, sort of disconnected. So in your concluding remarks, I want you to call upon many of these young people and just to rally them to be interested in these kinds of conversations as a build-up to a better society that we want.
Thank you very much. I thank very much the dear youth of Uganda. As the Speaker of the 6th National Youth Parliament, I appreciate the opportunity to provide leadership in that capacity. There's still a lot of work to do. The 2026 roadmap is out for national elections. Politics, as I was telling him earlier, seek first the political kingdom. Everything else, be it roads, be it nightlife, be it all pleasures, it starts with good leadership and good governance. So we need to be really involved. We also need to demystify participation in politics. As I've said, there are so many positions for you to take up, including trying to participate in the next youth parliament, but also outside. Look at the youth leagues from whichever idea you align with. The bottom line is you must participate. There are thousands, I think over 10,000 positions, or even more. Actually, no, it's millions of positions available for youth to take up in youth leadership structures. So to not belong in one of them is really to betray our own generation. So let's all collectively try to participate in whatever platforms as and may they come, but also stay tuned for different activities that we are going to roll out as the National Youth Parliament. We still have X series going on, which you can participate on Twitter. There's one this month, another one next month, where we'll try to bring the best minds, but also national leaders to listen, but also guide us accordingly. So let us continue to work together to build a Uganda that works for each and every one of us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. There's a friend of mine usually likes to say I have absolutely nothing useful to add. I think he has...
I'm sure he's a lawyer.
Yes, fortunately or unfortunately. But thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate the work you do in the National Youth Parliament.
Yes.
I know, first of all, the youths are not... I don't want to say are not easy people, because any human being is not that easy. But there are also people who need a lot of nurturing, a lot of patience, a lot of work.
Yeah.
To be able to get something done. So it is such a great job you do at the National Youth Parliament.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming. So we'll be following up. Of course, we'll have more conversations about the progress and some of those activities.
Sure.
And how better we can make it, maybe some of those solutions
Sure.
that will come up. Of course, it will come from experience. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you also for being a part of this conversation. You can have some of those comments drops in the future when we are revisiting some of these conversations. We can actually address some of those, so that we all are moving at the same time. Our being here is not that we are the custodians of knowledge, it is so that we are learning learning from the experiences from each other, but also that means it includes all of you who are joining us from wherever you're joining us. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Have yourselves a good time.
Thank you.